All right, we're going to be doing something fun today on this episode of Real Estate Strategies with Remax Hallmark. I might say it might even be hands-on, so grab your writing tools or your computer and type this out. Today, I'm joined by David Jenkins, a marketing consultant who specializes in helping real estate agents and teams turn online leads into actual appointments and deals. So David has led campaigns generating thousands of real estate leads every year with six-figure monthly ad budgets, and he's built full email nurture systems, automated follow-ups, and lead funnels for everything from cash buyers to top producing agents and national coaching organizations. He's here to share what really works in lead gen and what doesn't, so you can stop wasting money and start closing more deals. And also, David and I have been working together for so many years, and we've working on an exciting project, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So welcome, David.
Thanks for having me, Johnder, and thanks for the kind words. I'm just been so fortunate to work with some great teams, learned a ton along the way about what works and what doesn't, and I'm looking forward to sharing it.
Absolutely. And real estate agents listening and watching this, of course, have different perceptions when it comes to leads. And, I don't need to go into it, but the leads are fill in the blank, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about building up one of these systems so that anybody who wants to do what you've been able to do successfully will be able to get an idea about how to do it effectively and actually generate leads that work. And I mean, you've been doing it with your credentials and you've proven that it works. First question for you, David, is what separates a successful online lead gen strategy versus one that doesn't perform or underperforms in real estate?
There's just so many channels out there, whether we're talking online with, Facebook, Meta, Instagram, Google search, Bing search, social medias, even podcasting or working your database. What really makes the difference is that people fail because they don't know who they're trying to reach and why that person should care. You can be successful in any of those channels and you can fail in any of them either, but it really comes down to the fundamentals that lay the foundation for a strong campaign.
So it's literally marketing 101 is like knowing who you're trying to reach and, who you're talking to, sort of that what's in it for them. Maybe you want to elaborate a bit on like how somebody would go about doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have 4 key factors to a successful online lead gen strategies. And the first is, just like you said, marketing 101 is what is your clear target market? It shouldn't just be everybody, but who are they and what do they value? Now, as a quick example, when I was working with one of the largest wholesalers in Canada, we would always ask everyone that bought or sold a house, what was the number one reason you wanted to, or you chose to do business? And it should come as no surprise for people that are selling wholesale, selling without an agent, that it was ease, avoiding renos, avoiding showings, avoiding staging. And that is such a small segment of all the people that are looking to sell, but that company was laser focused on it. And that was part of what made it a success.
And that's what's called pretty much a niche, right? So, I mean, if you're looking at the way I see it as well, a lot of real estate agents, they see a campaign that, put forth by the top producing agent in their area. They're like, hey, that's great. Why don't I try to copy this? But of course, part of that is that branding aspect of it where that agent was successful and no matter what they put out, they'd be recognized for it. But not having a clear laser focused specifically to one message. So I want to, this might be a bit off track here a bit, but of course I want to inject some value to those who are following this show. David, how does somebody identify, like a real estate agent today listening or watching this who has never done lead gen before, and to the point of you've got to identify the audience, what their pain point is. You've done a great job at identifying a specific niche market and what their pain point is. How do I, as a new agent, never done a lead gen, identify A, the audience, B, what their pain point actually is?
Yeah, great question. First point that you would start with is creating personas. Think about who's in your area. You don't want to be searching for gold where there is no gold. Who is in the area that's going to be relatively easy for you to connect with? Who do you like connecting with? Because that's going to make it even better for you. And I don't have it in front of you, but if you just Google customer persona, you can find a sheet. There's tons of different things. You can use GPT or AI to get it and just take a second, fill it out. And it might not just be one particular person. You may have 2, 3, or 4 personas that all fit into exactly who you're targeting. So the first thing, make that customer persona, print it out, put it on your wall, and just that is your North Star. Anytime you're trying to think of who am I targeting, it is that person.
And after all, because we are in a real estate sales business, I mean, not everybody is born a marketer either, but these are sort of things that you've got to understand. So what we're going to do, David, is a bit of building up components of a high converting lead gen funnel. And let's take it step by step. We found our, our audience, the persona, or what some call an avatar. We identify what their pain point is. And, if you're, again, following along with this, you plug that in because there's so many out there. You know your niche, you know your market area, you know what you like to deal with. And that's an important thing that David just said. So make sure you're working with the people you want to work with, right? What comes next, David?
So the next, you brought it up earlier that you see someone else with the ad campaign, you see it being successful, and you think, oh, I could run that, I can be successful. That's point number 2, is to have clear goals and a realistic budget and runway. Just because you see someone else's campaign that looks like it's working, you don't know how long they've been doing that campaign, how long they've been testing their messaging, tweaking their ad creative, how much brand equity they've built up in the neighborhood. So, saying that you want to run something and you're hoping to see results in a day, in a week, that just isn't realistic. And that's really setting yourself up for failure. So give yourself a reasonable runway that you have the budget for, that you can afford. 3-6 months. Again, you're not going to get that lead right away, but you need that right time to give it a full college try and really suss out if it's working or not.
And here's one of the misconceptions. I turn on a lead campaign. And I know, we will go into technical aspects, not in this show, but, David and I are working on a training program for anybody interested in, real estate lead generation. Because to learn, Facebook ads, TikTok ads, Twitter, like all the different platforms that have ads, LinkedIn, Google, is in itself an undertaking. But, in building out these systems, you said something there, which is expectation related, which is, if I turn on the tap, yes, something's going to come out of it, but can I convert that into a commission check? I don't think it's realistic per se, unless it's like winning the lottery, you might be lucky, right? But let's crunch this into expectations and numbers, right? So a lead comes in, and again, you're lucky if they say, yeah, come list my house today. Great. But what is normally, you've managed a 6-figure budget. Normally, for a real estate agent with, $500 to $1,000 or $2,000, what would the expectation be? How many leads should they expect to get? What are the expectations for those leads specifically? When did they get their first sale? Because that's what everybody asks, is when do I get the commission?
Yeah, I wish I had a definitive answer there, but like it's so broad. It depends on the ads. Are we asking them for just their email address where we can get something? Probably a low quality lead, but a lead nonetheless. Are we asking them 1,000 questions for all the details where they're going to take the time, they're going to fill it out, they're going to invest in you to sell their house? So that could come through right away. So it's really hard to say. In terms of cost per lead, it can run anywhere between $15 on the low end, 20 to thousands of dollars if it's a really high intent lead. So it really scales the gambit of, what kind of leads are out there. But yeah, in terms of how quickly can you get a deal from it, it really depends on a lot of other things that we're going to go into today too. So if you improve all these other things, it could improve your chances of getting that deal quicker within a couple months versus a couple of years.
Absolutely, and what I tell our agents here at Remax Hallmark is, if you're expecting a commission check of $20,000, you're not paying $5 for that $20,000 commission check. Maybe not even $10, not even $100. Some agents might be spending $1,000, $2,000, which is 5% to 10%, which might be equivalent to what an ad budget is. David will go into that later in order to be able to convert that. But as David pointed out there, you have to identify what is a lead versus what is a prospect versus what is a client. And then we're talking about conversion rates and all of that sort of thing. So when you're creating a campaign, you just want people signing up to your email. Like this is again, we're talking online leads here, but somebody who's door knocking, they open a door, they've never met you before. They're not going to say, hey, come in and sell my house today. Right? So it might be sign up for my email, you're giving them monthly newsletters and all that sort of stuff. It's, more than a 20-30 minute podcast episode we'll be able to cover. So David, take us to the next step. So we've identified the audience, we've identified their pain points. We sort of have an idea, and this is the vague part. And again, anybody selling you a lead gen magic machine that says, put this much in, you'll get this out, you've got to be a bit weary about it. But let's say, for example, we've calculated out, I need to spend X amount of money. What's next in building out this lead generation system? Yeah,
so I guess some of the other key factors in building it out is that you're tracking something. I know when you're first starting a business, to use an analogy, it feels like you're building a house and tracking something feels like painting the fence. Why am I going to paint my fence when my house isn't even built? But anyone that's built any businesses before can tell you, paint that fence, track something, track anything. And that's such an important aspect of it when you start your campaign. It could be ROI. Did the leads that came in from this lead to deals and money? It can be total leads. It can be anything. But if I'm going to get someone to do something from this podcast, it's to track something. That's just so important to see your success grow. What you focus on tends to improve, whether if it's your finances, your health, your hobbies. And if you're not tracking your leads, they're not going to improve.
I mean, it seems like the obvious thing to do because you want to know how much you put in and what to expect out. So when somebody's tracking, David, what are we talking about here? What are they looking at in terms of, I put this in, what do they track?
Yeah, so I think the going from top down, cost per lead is an easy thing to track, but it's not really indicative of how many deals are coming through. I think a better metric would be cost per conversation. And that's really simple to track. How many leads did you get? How many appointments were set? How many appointments did you attend and actually speak with someone? And that's a true indicator of what your cost is going to be for having that conversation versus just a cost for a lead.
Yeah, so it's literally everything. Like you're not just counting how much you've spent that month. It's what is the conversion rates as well? Like what do you get? Does it go into a stage of they just call in or they just sign up? Do you get an actual appointment? Do you turn it into a presentation? Do you get that listing? Do you close that listing? And everything in between. And I think a lot of realtors fail to do that. So anything else with regards to the actual building out of that system? Obviously, if that lead brings you to an appointment, you're there. And then, David, what do you do as far as following up and what kind of priority should they place, real estate agents place in, somebody raises their hand, they want to hear from you, but they never hear from you versus following up with leads so that they maximize the conversion rates?
Yeah, following up is super important. Speed to lead is the number one difference between a deal and a dead lead. People forget what they had for breakfast. So you think that they're going to remember something that they downloaded on Instagram in 2 clicks late at night while watching TV a few days or a few weeks ago? Probably not. There's all sorts of studies online that'll say that speed to lead's important, but if you can get it within under 5 minutes, you're 20 times more likely to qualify that lead versus just waiting 30 minutes, and going even faster will help improve those numbers more.
Yeah, and there's automations for this. We're going to go into tools in a bit, but why do you feel real estate agents fail at the follow-up aspects of this?
It's a good question. It could be that they're scared of it. Even if they're spending all this money to bring these leads in, do they not believe in what the product that they're offering is, or they feel like they're too busy? But yeah, it could be so many different reasons. I remember when I was running my email marketing platform, as soon as someone signed up, if I was in the position to, I would call them immediately, just to introduce myself, let them know that I'm a real person and that I'm here to help. And that's something that you just don't see these days with chatbots and AI and everything. So I really feel that if you can make that personal touch and show them that you're there to help and introduce them and have that rapport and create it with them, you're going to differentiate yourselves from everyone else on the market.
And that's what it's all about, because a lot of lead generation systems, and we're going to go to tools next, is, they have all of these mechanisms, but we have to emphasize the fact that you can't lose the human touch. So one of my recommendations to our agents have been, if you're using automated drip campaigns and this and that, instead of creating automations that a robot is talking, let the automation nudge you to pick up the phone or send a text message rather than have an automated message sent out. And, one thing you nailed right there is that, you actually get somebody who wants to sell their house or who wants to buy a house and you have no idea what to do next. Well, realtors listening and watching this, give me leads is one thing, but creating an entire system that will actually help you run your business is the other part of it. Because, I credit Mike Malia for saying this, because he's always said it, is that some realtors are afraid of prospecting, lead generation, because suppose somebody said, yeah, I do want to sell my house. Where's your presentation? What David said, how are you confident in what you have to offer? And so if you have no idea what your value offering is and you have no idea what your product service, what your, levels of service are, like what do you do for A, B, or C, you shouldn't even be generating leads. You got to work on that first before you start selling things, right? So, David, we talked about a whole bunch of fancy stuff and in terms of, doing follow-up this, doing tracking, lead conversion, that. What tools and systems do you feel are essential that somebody has to put together their lead gen stack so that they can not only be able to generate the leads from, whatever platform that they're doing that by, but to be able to turn that into a systematic process where they are turning it into human conversations and interactions and then an eventual sale.
Yeah, honestly, the best system and tool is one that you're actually going to use. Fancy tools don't matter if they sit idle. You can have a successful business with a spreadsheet and a pad of paper, but if we're getting more into it, having some sort of CRM that you check into daily, that you're comfortable using, that can remind you and send you those notifications is key. Whether agents are doing the technical hookup behind the scenes, probably not, but having tools like Zapier or Make.com to connect the pieces can really save time. SMS is key. Again, your CRM should be able to handle that for you, and everyone should be leaning on some sort of AI tools these days, whether it's just GPT for proofing and crafting your messages, or Lovable for creating landing pages, or other video software for creating video content. There's just so much out there, and using it to fill in the blanks of where you're not as good is what you should be looking at using it for.
Yeah, so I hope you were taking notes there, because a lot of golden nuggets in terms of the tools. And right on what David said is that if you're not using a tool, it's not the right tool for you. So Lovable, Make, Bolt, Replit, all of these AI coding tools, ChatGPT, Perplexity, all of these different search and AI tools, LLMs. There's so many of them. Email, Constant Contact Email, MailChimp, Bold Trail if you're using CRMs, Follow Up Boss. But we can go on and name 100 tools. In fact, you can even go to ChatGPT or your favorite AI and say, hey, give me 100 tools for lead gen. But if you don't know how to use it, number one. Number two, you don't know what it's for, then you might be better off with your simple CRM platform. Lead gets fed into it with Zapier, and David's an expert at that, so reach out to him if you ever want to build that out, and then just use the tool that you're using. So David, I know you answered a question already about metrics and indicators, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a twist here to finish off our podcast. For a real estate agent who's starting out today, or somebody who's struggling right now in terms of getting their business going, and finances are tight, the budget is tight, and they're really struggling with a competitive marketplace, how do you approach the creation of a lead gen system? Whether it's, I know we focus on digital here, but, whether it's offline or online, doesn't matter if it's digital or traditional forms, what should that approach look like in addition to already everything that we've talked about? Like, what's the next thing they do after they finish watching this?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you decided to take it in a different direction there, because that's what I was going to do too. And we can talk all day about numbers of ROI, of cost per lead, of open rates. But I think taking a slightly different direction for someone that is having a hard time is something that I wanted to go into. So before I get into what they are, I want to tell you what brought it to mind for me. I'm a huge F1 fan. I love cars. I love engineering. I think it's the ultimate team sport. And a few years ago, there's a team at the back of the grid, Williams. They were doing horrible in races, and there's no chance of them winning anything. They had no chance to compete in the race itself. And that could be super demoralizing if you're an agent. If you're trying to compete, you see everyone else that's killing it, and you're not, that weighs on you. So what they decided to do was to find small wins in places that they could compete. Getting to the track first, unpacking everything, getting it set up first, taking it all down first, getting the fastest pit stop. And by having all of these micro wins, it can have a huge difference on morale. You can feel like you're winning, and all of these things will still translate when things turn around. So the first here is speed to lead. How fast are you contacting your leads? The average agent can wait weeks, days, months. Are you doing it in hours? Are you doing it in minutes? Every lead that comes in, track it. At the end of the month, see when the lead came in, see when your first touch point was, and see if you can bring that down. The second is lead response time. Again, on average, it takes 6 to 7 attempts just to get in contact with someone through multiple channels. And if you tried a phone call, you tried a text, you tried an email, they didn't come through, you might give up. But if you know that, okay, my average is 6, 7, 8, can I get it down to 4, 5, 6? What channels resonate best with my contacts? Is it phone? Is it text message? Is it Messenger? Is it WhatsApp? Whatever it is. But that's a huge one, and a way for you to just take all that money off the table and get it by reducing the number of contacts that you're doing.
Yeah, so it's small wins, because you want to feel that you've accomplished something. And in fact, when you do tackle these bit by bit, I know it's off topic. I was debating whether to bring it or not, but Dave Ramsey, if you're looking at finances, you're doing financial planning, which is, another episode altogether. He calls it the snowball effect, right? Or that snowball approach, which is, you take on the small stuff first, and then it get bigger and bigger and bigger, because when you go the opposite direction, which is I want to build this massive lead generation system with automations and all these bells and whistles, well, like, how do you even start that thing? But if the first thing that you do is, your office gives you a lead via email, and we do that all the time. We do that every day here at Remax Hallmark. Did you actually respond to that lead? And if you do that, then you go to the next step, which is, now how do I attract these steps? So David, thank you so much for sharing that. And that key insight there made the whole, everything put together for somebody who's looking to build these. And we are working with David here at Remax Hallmark. So stay tuned for the training and education that we're going to be working together on when it comes to lead generation. Any final words that you want to plug in there, David, before we wrap up today?
Yes, it's one final thing is give someone the chance to say yes. If they're mid-funnel for you, you have them, they're in their database, you're just sending newsletters, you're sending market reports, that's not enough. If you don't tee someone up and give them the chance to say yes, and saying yes could be a number of different things. It could be watching a video, it could be downloading a report, it could be filling out a survey, it could be answering a text message. But if you're not giving people the chance to say yes, again, you're leaving money on the table. So make sure that you do that where it comes from a place of value and, it's reflective of who you are and that it's hitting your target market, all of those things. But give them a chance to say yes.
That's perfect. Just the engagement, right? Here's something of value, say yes, raise your hand, and then engage with them. Because at the end of the day, you can generate all the leads you want, but the value in them come in terms of the value you're providing and how much engagement you provide. So that's awesome, David. Thank you so much. If you're listening to this on the podcast, make sure you follow. If you're watching, like on YouTube, for example, make sure you subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Thanks again, David. And thank you all for joining us, listening, and watching this on Real Estate Strategies with Remax Hallmark. We'll see you next time.